Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So sorry I didn't film last week. This week is going to be my 36 and 37 week update. Now the reason that I didn't film last week was because I'd filmed 2 in a row anyway, not much was happening, but then I went to see my midwife and had my midwife I can never say that word, midwife appointment. And she was concerned about the growth of the baby again based on my bump measurements. So I thought I would just wait until that sort of whole caboodle had been sorted out and then I'd update you guys. So first off, I have to say how exciting it is to be 37 weeks and officially full term. I turned 37 weeks yesterday, so that was just so exciting. I'll talk a little bit more about what's been going on, and I might end up having to have a C-section. The baby still is breech. I think at this stage it's normally a small percentage of babies that are still breech. Today is one of those days where I feel like I'm never going to get this video filmed, so we have to rattle through this. So basically I went for my midwife check at 36 and 1 day. My bump had only grown 1 to 1.5 centimetres, so she was worried that I'd actually fallen below the 5th percentile line. And this just goes to show how rubbish the external measurements are. I think they're good just for when you're on a continuous growth climb, or I don't know, just for them to fill some paperwork in, but they don't actually seem to correlate much at all, especially maybe because the baby's breech. So obviously she's in a different position anyway. So yeah, she'd only grown 1 to 1.5 centimetres, so they referred me to the hospital for a growth scan, and similarly to last time, they wanted to get me in within, I think, 72 hours, and because they couldn't, they sent me for a CTG. So I went for my CTG on the Saturday, and everything was absolutely fine. Oh. Sorry, I have a helper today. So it lasted about 20 minutes, it was completely fine. I just took loads of snacks and a sticker book for my toddler, and my partner happened to be there because obviously it was a weekend. So that worked out quite nicely. It actually was quite reassuring because I got to hear the baby's heartbeat over a longer period of time as opposed to a little snippet on a Doppler. You have 2 bands wrapped around you, a pink band and a blue band. It's probably different in all the hospitals. The one at the bottom measures babies or fetal heart rate or heartbeat, and you get given a button that you press every time that you can feel the baby move, obviously because that must cause fluctuations in the heartbeat, so you press that and then they can see why.
Is it 10?
And then the top band is meant to measure any contractions that you're having, and it gives it in a percentage so that they have a better idea of when you're saying that you're having contractions, how intense they are. And I did have a few on there, but I couldn't feel any of them. I think they were saying there was 17-18%, but I couldn't feel anything at all. But yeah, it was nice to hear the baby's heartbeat and know that she wasn't in any distress. So that kind of left me knowing everything that I already knew anyway, that we thought the baby was fine, and waiting for my growth scan, which was on the Monday. So we went in for the growth scan, and it was a growth and presentation scan, this one. She checked the growth of the baby first, was completely happy with it, and this just goes to show how silly the measurements are. She's actually grown a lot, and she is on the 50th percentile line when they actually plotted it. So yeah, the baby has grown lots. So I had my scan at 36 weeks and 5 days, and she was 6 pounds and 9 ounces, which is quite a healthy weight for that stage, and also shown within 2 weeks she'd grown quite a bit. Previously she was 5 pounds and 4 ounces, and that was at 34 weeks and 2 days, so excuse me. Yeah, that just shows, doesn't it? So that was all really good. She then took extra measurements because of the presentation scan. It was obvious that the baby was still breech. You can literally feel her head like sticking out of me. I knew she hadn't moved, and the weirdest part of it was I felt like my bump had dropped, which the midwife said was probably because she has, and it's just obviously her bum that's dropped into my pelvis. So that's why I feel like my whole stomach has just been taken up by baby now, and explains why she probably hasn't turned as well. As soon as she told me that the growth was fine, I just enjoyed the rest of the scan. And it was a nice one because it went on for quite a while. She checked my amniotic fluid levels, which were all fine, and anything else that would be more of a medical issue as to why the baby hadn't turned, and there wasn't any evidence as to why. So either she's just perfectly comfortable there, which is what I think she probably is. She's been there since like 22 weeks and hasn't budged, or I have a heart-shaped uterus, so her head would be sort of tucked here, a bum down the bottom, and it means that obviously unless she's going to go all the way around like that, then she's not going to move. So we started then talking about options once she'd shown me a cute little head that is now perfectly round, because obviously it hasn't been squished into my pelvis, which is the weirdest thing you would never think of, but it's the most perfectly round head. Normally babies have slightly more like squashed heads still, and I could even see the little hair and things moving, which was really cute. So that got me a little bit excited. I don't think Mila was born with any hair whatsoever, but we'll see. Yeah, so that got us on to talking about options. Your options with a breech baby at my hospital are one of three. You can either try and deliver the baby vaginally in the breech position, and they have specialist trained midwives who are able to do it. And you obviously have a paediatrician there as well throughout the whole birth. And that's not really an option that I want to consider because it's actually a much bigger risk to the baby, and you're likely to need assistance and like an assisted delivery, which could require, or I think normally does require, an episiotomy. The baby can get stuck as it moves down the birth canal, which means that the baby's head can get stuck, hence why you need the assistance. The whole thing to me just feels a little bit, I'm not that desperate to have like a natural vaginal birth, and I don't want to put the baby at risk or me at risk. You know, I have another child to think about and my partner and things. I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me, so that's not an option for me currently. You can have a turning procedure called an ECV, an external sleeve-back, something like that, which I'll talk about in a second. Or you can opt to have a C-section, and obviously the breech delivery and the C-section is still available to you if the turning procedure doesn't work. Now, the turning procedure I think is a no-brainer for some people. Some people seem to think, well, what else would you do? I don't want a C-section, so that's what I'll do. And for other people it just doesn't seem to sit right, and I am one of those people. I understand all of the medical information, I understand why they want you to do it, blah blah blah. I would be a candidate for it because I don't have low amniotic fluid, the baby isn't showing any signs of distress. But for me, they inject you with a relaxant, a muscle relaxant for your uterus to obviously relax your uterus muscles so that they can try and turn the baby easier. And I am super sensitive to drugs, any type of drug. I overreact to everything. So that makes me really nervous, particularly the fact that it is your uterus that they're relaxing and that is where the baby is. The chances are 50-50, and they normally like to do it at 36 weeks. Obviously I'm now over 37 weeks and I wouldn't be booked in until 38, and the baby has already moved down further into my pelvis, so she said that my chances would be reduced of it being successful in the first place. You normally have about 20 minutes of monitoring for the baby to make sure that the baby's heartbeat is regular and all the rest of it on the day of trying to turn them, and then they continuously monitor the baby's heartbeat throughout, and they keep you in hospital for a little bit afterwards to make sure that they haven't caused any distress to the baby. And for some reason my gut instinct is telling me that it's not for me. I think partly because she's been in that position for so long, and she just seems so happy despite the fact that babies should be happier the other way. Just all the signs, you know, being sat lower in my pelvis, the fact that they've kind of missed the window, that my chances are already reduced. I don't want to interfere. I have this thing about interfering, and you know, everyone keeps on saying, oh, it's really rare, it's low risk, blah blah blah, but I think it's only 3% or 300 pregnancies that end with the baby being in breech position anyway. And obviously I'm going to be coming up to nearly 38 weeks by the time I see the consultant, and she's still breech. I've managed to get a rash that's really quite rare in pregnancy. It's the second time I've had it. I had it with my first one and this one. So I'm like, well, I just feel like I'll be that 1%, that 1 in the 100 that actually ends up in an emergency C-section. So at the moment, my plan is to go and see the consultant on Friday and talk to them about having an elective C-section. And if she turns before then, which will be, I'm guessing, around 39 weeks to 40 weeks, I imagine they'll want to do it earlier. I think they normally base it slightly on when you went into labour with your first one. I went into labour at 39 and 2, and obviously they don't want to risk you having to come in for an emergency procedure or going through a breech delivery if you didn't want to, or if you're higher risk. So yeah, that's what I'm going to talk to my consultant about on Friday. So I shall update you about that next week. So other than that absolute bundle of information, I am, just feeling pretty tired. I noticed on my diary it has like a section for like the weather and your mood on the day, and I quite like enjoy filling that little bit out because I'm pretty sure that I'm only happy when it's sunny. And since I hit 36 weeks, I've written mood, really tired. Really tired. Really tired. Nearly every single day. And even when I haven't, like, I've actually been waking up completely shattered. And when I haven't, I've kind of been hitting like a slump at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It kind of feels like being in your first trimester again, where everything's just running really slowly and you feel a bit like sicky, headachy, but I'm not sleeping very well. With the baby being sat so high up with her head like tucked in to one side of my rib, she's got both of her feet and her hands to inside of my ribs on my right side. So every time I lean over to the left, her whole back and head drops with me. And obviously they like you to fall asleep on your left side, don't they? So I try and do that every night. And then I get all the weight shifted into my left ribs and then all the punches and kicks in my right ribs. So that's been waking me up quite a lot. And other than that, I've had quite a lot of achiness, like lower back pain, I guess, as she sank into my pelvis. But also like crampy, like some days I've felt like I've had period pain. So I don't know if that's maybe some of the contractions that I'm not feeling properly, I'm not really aware of, but it just feels achy or crampy. But obviously at 37 weeks you can start experiencing things like that anyway, with the baby being full term and your body's starting to prep. So they're probably all good natural signs. It's just I do not want to go into labour whilst the baby is breech, so please hold off. So yeah, other than that, I'm just going to show you my bump shot. I think I might do a video next week of a quick update for 38 weeks, but more to do with the consultant appointment and the types of questions and things, because I did quite a lot of research into all the various different options and routes that I could take to help me to make my decision. I'm not sure if the consultant will change my mind and what he says, or because my hospital is different or has like different pathways from what I know is available. So yeah, I might do a question video to help other people who maybe are going through the similar process of things that you should ask your consultant or the surgeon. And yeah, I shall see you in my next video. So I'm going to show you without my top, like with my top lifted, but I have to apologise for my rash. It's called a PUPPP rash, or PUPPP rash, that has really spread. I thought it was a heat rash, and was wondering why it was like worse at night. not going away with moisturisers, things like that. And then I started getting it on my arms and I was thinking, it's a bit odd. But yeah, I think it's PUPPP Rash. I did have it with Mila. As soon as I googled it, it came back to me. It doesn't affect the baby or me, so it just looks bad. I'm sorry. So, I mean, to me I look like definitely grown. What was she talking about? So from the side, from the front, and this is where her head is, like right up here. On the other side, this is where I'm getting booted. I'm not sure if you can actually see my rash on screen. It has gone down a little bit. You just see it there. Just in case there's anyone else who is experiencing a similar thing. So yeah, anyway, that is it for this week, and I shall see you next week, and I will let you know how I get on with the consultant. I'm a little bit scared, to say the least, but I will come back to you and hopefully be able to help some other people who may be going through the same process in the UK. So I shall see you soon. Bye!